It's Friday, 9th of January 2020, Sykes. Welcome back to your news update on Blip Brief, crisp but almost everything updated every weekday. So, the big story has to be the Indian markets. A real jolt yesterday, a pretty sharp one.
A very sharp one. We're talking about the benchmark indices falling around 1%.
And that might not sound like a huge number, but the context is everything here.
Exactly. This was the steepest single-day drop we've seen since all the way back in August. It was a real emergency brake moment for investors.
And when a drop is that sudden, you know there's a big trigger. In this case, it was pure geopolitics, wasn't it?
Came straight out of Washington. The direct catalyst was President Trump backing a bill that proposes these just punishingly high tariffs.
Punishing is one word for it. How high are we talking?
A staggering 500%. A 500% tariff on countries, and that includes India, that buy Russian oil.
Wow. I mean, that's not a negotiation opener. It's an economic sledgehammer.
It is. And for our exporters, this isn't some abstract threat.
So this is immediate. How did it hit specific sectors?
Well, the pain was felt right away in India's export engine. Shares for textile makers, apparel, seafood, even drug manufacturers. They all slumped sharply.
Because their entire business model depends on access to the U.S. market.
Precisely. This kind of threat makes them look frankly uninvestable overnight.
And we saw that fear bleed right into the money markets. The rupee ended weaker.
It did, and that's despite the Reserve Bank of India intervening pretty aggressively.
For the second day in a row, right?
The second consecutive session. But here's the thing. It wasn't enough. The pressure from the tariff worries combined with, foreign portfolio investors pulling out their money.
The FPI outflows.
Yes.
Right.
That pressure was just too much for the central bank to contain.
While all that was happening, let's look at commodities. Gold actually moved down a bit.
It did, down by about 0.84%. But that was for a completely different reason.
Not the local chaos, but something bigger picture.
Exactly. Gold traders were all looking ahead, waiting for the key U.S. non-farm payrolls data. It's a classic case of a major data point making everyone hesitate before committing capital.
So domestic turmoil and global hesitation. But let's look past the immediate noise to the fundamentals, because Q3 earnings are coming up. What's the outlook there?
It's a story of stability. For the Nifty 50 companies, aggregate revenue and net profit are expected to grow in the single digits.
Okay, so modest growth.
Modest, yes, but here's the really positive signal. Operating margins. They're forecast to remain above 20%.
Above 20%.
For the 13th consecutive quarter. It shows incredible resilience and pricing power in our core companies, even with all the external shocks.
That kind of margin strength is what keeps long-term capital interested, even when the FPIs get nervous. And speaking of capital, the IPO market seems to be ignoring the bad news.
Oh, completely. Bharat Coke and Coal, or BCCL, opens today. It's the first mainboard IPO of 2026.
And the buzz is huge. The gray market premium
is exceeding 50%. It's a sign that domestic retail appetite is just insatiable right now. It's a really important counterweight to those FPI outflows we mentioned.
And it's not just BCCL. The tech pipeline is looking very strong.
Very. You've got the digital payments firm, Razorpay, starting its preparations. They're aiming to raise up to 4,500 crore.
And then there's the big one everyone's waiting for, Flipkart.
That's right. They've been making some board changes that are a clear signal they're getting ready for their own IPO. We're talking about a wave of digital listings that could really redefine the market.
On the corporate deals front, there was a big move from Bajaj Finserv.
A very strategic one. They completed their acquisition of Allianz's stake in their insurance joint ventures.
So they're taking full control now.
They've increased their direct holding to 75.01% in both entities. It simplifies the ownership structure and lets them be much more agile with strategy.
Okay, let's circle back to that 500% tariff threat. The market panicked, but what's the real feeling on the ground? Is this actually going to happen?
Well, this is where the nuance is so important. When you talk to executives in the Indian oil industry, they see this primarily as a pressure tactic.
A tool for negotiation, not a policy set in stone.
Exactly. It's leverage for broader trade talks, and maybe a way to nudge Moscow towards a peace settlement. The thinking is that the U.S. knows enforcing this would cripple a friendly economy, a key partner.
So it's leverage. But what isn't just leverage, what's a hard fact, is the shift in global capital we saw last year.
A massive shift. Investments in India by state-owned investors, these are your sovereign wealth funds, the really long-term patient money.
What happened then?
They fell sharply. by more than 70% year-on-year in 2025.
70%, that's a huge drop.
It is. India's share of global SOI investments shrank from about 9.5% down to just 2%. These big fens got spooked and pivoted their capital elsewhere.
And that capital drain is happening at the same time the U.S. is stepping back from some of its global commitments.
Yes, that's another piece of the puzzle. The U.S. has started the process to withdraw from over 60 international organizations.
Including a very important one for India.
Critically, yes. The India-led International Solar Alliance, or ISA. This withdrawal really complicates the ISA's goal of unlocking $1 trillion in solar investments by 2030.
So India has to find new anchors for that project. Meanwhile, inside the U.S., there's a big debate on their own policy pivot.
A huge one. You have Federal Reserve Governor Stephen Miran arguing for 150 basis points of interest rate cuts in 2026.
That's 6 quarter-point cuts. That's extremely aggressive.
It's a massive call for easing. He's making the case that current policy is too restrictive, and they need to prioritize boosting the labor market, even if it means accepting higher inflation.
It's a major potential shift. But despite all this global uncertainty, the outlook for India's economy itself seems pretty solid.
It does. And the UN just backed that up. They've upgraded India's growth projection for 2026 to 6.6%.
What's driving that confidence?
It's all about the domestic story. Resilient private consumption people are still spending, and strong public investment. It's a vote of confidence in India's internal engine.
That resilience is a perfect transition to our final segment, the innovation close-up. We're shifting from the pressure of economics to the ultimate pressure test in the quantum world.
It's a fascinating discovery. Scientists were studying a complex quantum system, and they were, to put it simply, hitting it repeatedly with laser kicks.
Just blasting it with energy.
Constantly. Now, standard physics, thermodynamics, says the system should heat up and just descend into chaos.
Right. If you keep kicking something, eventually it breaks.
But that's not what happened. Instead, the atoms just stopped absorbing energy. They abruptly locked into a stable, patterned motion.
They just refuse to get hot.
In essence, yes. The discovery breaks the rules of heating for these systems. It's a kind of anti-thermodynamics. The implications for things like quantum computing, where heat is the enemy, are pretty profound.
Incredible. A system that finds stability under pressure. Now let's bring that idea to a more immediate industry reset. Online search.
This is a perfect example of pressure forcing a pivot. The pressure, in this case, is AI. For decades, search has been about those 10 blue links.
A model the big legacy players built their empires on.
Exactly. But AI is shifting search from a list of links to a synthesized conversational answer, and the startups are moving much faster on this.
Because they don't have to overhaul a legacy business model built around clicks on links.
Precisely. They can build for the new AI-driven world from the ground up. It's a structural pivot being forced by technology itself. A perfect metaphor for the week, really.
And just before you go, a quick note, this deep dive commentary was put together using advanced AI. We always strive for accuracy, but please do cross-verify any crucial information yourself. Your informed decisions are what matter most.